by that I mean publications. Please.
Good afternoon. I know that I'm the man standing between you and lunch, but I seek your indulgence. I have here a one-slide presentation just to provide some sort of context. I just whipped this up yesterday when I learned that I'm going to come over. So this is basically this substructure, so to speak, because when we talk about the innovation ecosystem, we're talking about the outputs. But the substructure actually that is usually taken for granted. That's why when people go to Israel, to South Korea, they will say, you have such nice innovation ecosystem. But what is taken for granted is the substructure, the one that is supporting it. And our contention is that graduate education is actually that substructure. If you have quality graduate education, produce quality graduates from our graduate education programs, then that will support the cadre of researchers that will transform, that will actually increase innovators, potential innovators. I'm not saying if you graduate from a graduate school, you become an innovator, but chances are, if you do research, you will have contribution to the knowledge ecosystem. So I would just like to explain, this is not yet complete, but what we are doing now is, we want to produce this table for every region in the country, so that each of our regional offices will be guided which areas of weakness needs to be addressed. Of course, in partnership with the DOST, DA, and DTI. So, in 2017-2018, that was last academic year, so we produced 664,000 graduates, 235,000 of them are from STEAM, and then 429. So this is fairly basic. There has been a dip because of the K-12 program. But this is actually the more relevant aspect. Masters and PhD graduates. For STEAM, only 413 all over the country for one academic year. And then for PhD graduates, and 3,278 for non-STEAM. And so fast forward din lang po tayo, what we learned is, in terms of authorship of publications, I just go answer directly that question. 85% of publications actually came from STEAM subjects, 15 from non-STEAM. And in 2017, we have 3,090 publications indexed in Scopus, Elsevier's indexing service. I understand that for GII, it's the Web of Science that is being used. And I think this is already a very optimistic figure because Web of Science covers a smaller set of publications. So when we say 3,000, that's actually already something, a high estimate. And I just want to also share that Israel's publication during this year is 22,000. So if we say Israel is doing well, we are publishing 3,000 index in Scopus. Israel is publishing 22,000. Malaysia is publishing 29,000. Vietnam is published 6,000. And we published 3,000. Of course, we rejoice that UP Manila at some point exceeded Harvard and Oxford. But that's only for the very specific subfield, which is actually a subfield of health. I think it's not the entire health sector. So what we aim to do is to maximize this one. There's some sort of life cycle of an innovator. Chances are you need to complete your bachelor's degree. At some point, you might need to take a graduate training. And in terms of CHED, we want more of them coming into higher education. And when we talk about higher education, I did not provide the percentages here, but only 54% of our faculty in higher education have graduate degrees. So 46% of them, they have bachelor's degrees, but they might be studying leading towards a graduate degree. And according to the USC, this is 2013 R&D data, of those, ito total ko na lang, magtiwala na lang po kayo sa akin. No? Actually, in here, 51% po yung may graduate degrees. Dito po sa buong ito. Pag tinanggal niyo po ito, dito, is 51,000. 51,000 pala. Only 18,900 were considered as researchers. And the 18,900 researchers, I understand researcher is very all-encompassing in terms of definition. only 3,000, in 2013 only 1,700 was produced, in 2017 3,000. So there's a funnel. So what we aim to do is to expand that one, the conversion mechanism. It's that assembly line thing. And the missing gap, the missing link actually is itong sa dulo, extension and commercialization. If you look at this, what we are proposing now, because there have been a lot of pressure really, doon sa opisina ko na, let's have another higher education research agenda. But my focus really is, I've been proposing knowledge focused on the agenda of the regions. What are the regional needs? And for each region, let us support them, support the universities to enable their authors and their inventors to be able to address the local needs. And this means, for instance, requiring impact case studies. Because in our SUC leveling, we just require indicators. How many, and this has been true for the PBB, you know? How many people you've trained for the past several years. And you have these figures, really large figures, but we're not seeing the quality of life in the regions change. So maybe it's time for us to have what impact case studies. Like show us 10 impact case studies of what you did in the region, in your university, and you have the full points in terms of SUC leveling and other CHED requirements. So this is where if this gets approved, this is where our money will be put into. We have 500 million at least for this year, and but of course this is preliminary. As you can see, there are so many question marks yet. But we've met with the regional offices, and they are open to this. And we are just going to convene an interagency body at the regional level, committee at the regional level, to get inputs, of course, from the DOST-STII. So hopefully, we'll have more people contributing to knowledge production and innovation. After all, I of course heed the input of DOST during the PNHRS meeting in Cagayan de Oro. We were talking about research university, and a lot of these indicators talks about publications and so on. But of course, while we of course aim to be ranked, to be well published, our primary consideration, especially from CHED and the government agencies, is to really improve the quality of life. Because that is, I think, not the GII, not the ranking in QS or Times. Eventually, if our universities are able to produce knowledge, that would transform the quality of lives of our people in the regions. I think we can call ourselves successful in creating an innovation ecosystem that serves the interests of the country. Thank you. And good morning.
Thank you for that uplifting advice. Just a recall that we need to update our education stats that was given to GII. And while I agree that the objective is to improve the quality of life, then you have to generate metrics to measure that. So it's back to measurements. Now I apologize. We have reached almost the lunch time, and I have been instructed to end. But because there are people who were not on the panel, I gave the panel maximum time. People not on the panel, I'll give you maybe 3 minutes each to say your piece. That is to say, IPOPhil, how do you ensure the development dimension in your discussion and promotion of IP? DICT, how do you improve ICT, not only education, but capabilities across the board? And DepEd, if you wish to add anything to what CHED has said with respect to innovation and education. So I'll start with IPOPhil.